We will now call the regularly scheduled town council meeting to order. We have already done the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Can we do the roll call, please, for the regularly scheduled town meeting?
Mayor Foley?
Here.
Vice Mayor Carroll?
Here.
Councilmember Alwater?
Here.
Councilmember Altieri?
Here.
Let the record show all members are present with the exception of Councilmember Smith.
All right, on item 2, agenda reordering deletions or emergency additions. I have one request to move item 3A down to item 8G. So we will have that as a change. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All right, it's all in favor of the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, it's unanimous. We will now move to item 3B, which is the solid waste and recyclables collection franchise agreement overview. All right, so let's move to that. And now we're all anxious to hear how the new contract negotiations have been going and what Mr. Harper has said.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. In brief, as everyone is aware, we've been engaged in the procurement process for solid waste and recyclable collection. Went through the process in its entirety. The BOCC, the Board of County Commissioners, had ratified the agreement that was drafted and reviewed and prepared the franchise agreement. They did that on July 2nd, I believe it was. And now it's here for Council's ratification. I just want to point out a couple things, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Sweeney for him to address just some procedural issues. So, at its core, the residential collection service for solid waste currently, and these are monthly charges, is $29.34. Recycling is $14.70, and yard waste is $9.76, with a total for current collection services of $53.80. Effective 10/1/2025, we will have essentially solid waste will be $6.98, recycling will be $4.58, and yard waste will be $3.86, totaling $15.42 monthly for the residents. Now, for the multifamily and commercial, I only pull out a very brief comparison section because there are a lot of variables here. We'll be publishing this. We're coordinating with the HOAs to get this information out to them, set up meetings, let them know so they can begin discussing. But by comparison, a 2 cubic yard size container 2 times a week currently would be $190.52. There's a decrease to $187.04, and then you can see the differences in the 4 cubic yard and 6 cubic yard, depending on the frequency of the pickup. You can see it did go down a little bit in the commercial, multifamily. So with that, I just want to turn it over to our town attorney to discuss just a little bit the process, especially as it relates to the changeover in billing from subscription to universal.
Thank you, Mr. Harpering, Mayor, Council, members of the public. So what you have in front of you is just a brief recitation of what the timeline is, and this is as much for the benefit of the public as it is for our council, most certainly. We currently have an agreement with another provider that will expire, so as many on this council are familiar, we had to work through that within the last year and a half to get an extension and continue with them. However, the county, and I see our solid waste disposal district manager, director here, Mr. Mehta, so certainly he can correct me if I'm incorrect on any of these statements, but the county was also coming up with an end to their contract. So the county put out, acting as a solid waste disposal district, or SWED, an RFP. The town was included as an add-on, which allowed us to be included as the proposal and also to see what the cost would be. Indian River County did, as Mr. Harpering just mentioned. There were multiple vendors came back. Waste Management was selected, and it was finalized and presented for approval by the Board of County Commissioners on July 2nd. Important terms. The contract commences, as I just mentioned, October 1, 2025, has an initial 5-year term. There is a 3-year additional extension from October 1, 2030 to September 30th, 2033, and then there's one more additional 2-year that would have to be mutual to extend all the way to 2035. Importantly for the town, the county is going to be utilizing this same process, which is to place it on the property tax bill as a non-ad valorem special assessment. And so just as brief background, what does that mean? When you receive your property tax bill, there are 2 bifurcations. You are assessed and you pay your ad valorem, that's based on your property value, less any exemptions, whatever may be appropriate. And then as a separate non-value based section, that's the non-ad valorem section, and that would typically be for a specific fee-based. One that's most familiar to many is the stormwater assessment. And that's typically based on, say, something like coverage. For the town, we currently do not have that in place for our solid waste disposal. Instead, we have an ordinance within the town that requires every person in the town that has developed property to utilize our franchisee. So we enforce that, but it's a one-to-one relationship by the individual property owner currently with the hauler, okay? The county will be utilizing this, and it is the intent for the town to also utilize this, and this is the process. Let me move to the next slide, my apologies. So what happens is, pursuant to this Florida statute, we would advertise the intent to do that for 4 consecutive weeks in a local newspaper. Once that has been met, we would bring to the town council a proposed resolution to establish the intent to utilize the uniform method for this. It has to be approved in order to meet next year's October 1 beginning of service date by January 1 of this year. So from a time frame perspective, it's a very important date. Yes, sir. And so that's why we're bringing it now. Here we are in July, and we expect to bring you a couple more things over the next couple months to make sure we do not even get close to this date. So what we would be doing is, as mentioned, we'd be advertising, be bringing back a resolution. I'll defer to Mr. Harpring on the actual meeting on what that date will be. You can reference that in a minute. Assuming it passes, I'm sorry. Yes, sir, Councilman? No, I'm not aware of that. And it would also, the fact that we have an ordinance in place still requires that you have to utilize the services of a solid waste board. To be honest with you, Councilman, I had never looked at that part of it. I'll look at it again, and I don't disagree with you, but I believe that would be contrary to the terms of our ordinance, which...
Why don't we ask the gentleman here to
And-
run the process?
And I'm happy to have him come up because, again, Mr. Mehta was the lead. So, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to bring up Mr. Mehta at this time, or however you'd like to handle it.
And council, just for reference, it's on page, just for reference, it's on page, it's numbered both 11 and 38 in your packet in 8. In 8, I think it's B or C, excuse me.
It's 33.
Say C, so if you look at, how they're numbered. In the end, I mean, my position is it's moot because of the town ordinance.
I agree.
So they are required to have a hauler if they so choose to self-haul. I don't know how that in this agreement would conflict with our ordinance that requires someone to subscribe to service. And I mean, I defer to our town attorney, but
Well, let me maybe what that's referencing is I self-haul on occasion to the county convenience center. I think that might be the reference, but could you come up and address that point?
Let me just say, the way I read it is that under our prior agreement, we had to utilize the services of the public, for example, for bulk hauling unless the public could not do it for
not in violation of the provisions of the agreement. That's how it's.
That's correct. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, just for the record, this is Himanshu Mehta. He's with the county, and I just want to.
Yes, yes.
And I just want to note peremptorily that Mr. Mehta has been a great assistance to the town, to the residents of the town through this entire process, and we thank him ad nauseum for that.
Good morning, Town Council. My name is Himanshu Mehta. I'm the Managing Director for the Solid Waste Disposal District. Pleasure to be here. I, appreciate all the support from Town Council, Town Manager. Heather Christmas was on our selection committee process, so it's been a great partnership working with you. Regarding that question, we always, part of the non-ad valorem assessment that was mentioned, which is currently administered right now by our department, it includes disposal of garbage, it includes the collection of recycling, and it includes the use of the convenience centers. So residents are currently have those services available to them. And although the county is a subscription-based service right now, that's why that provision, because the convenience center is included, that they may self-haul and they could opt out currently. I understand the language is in the new agreement as well. I think the right for a resident to use a convenience center is always available to them. If they have things that are, even with this new franchise agreement, garbage services once a week. So if they have additional garbage, they may self-haul it, to the convenience center or to the landfill. There may be other items that, even with bulk service, it's only limited to 4 items a week. So these are the things that they do have. We want to make sure they have the right or the ability to self-haul and use the convenience centers, because we're not making any changes to the convenience centers. That is a service that's going to continue to be available to our residents, including the town residents. But we're going to follow the same suit. You have it in your ordinance. We're going to be going through the same process and timeline that's shown above. And we're, with our board, also putting it on universal service, meaning every resident in unincorporated Indian River County will have on their non-ad valorem assessment a collection charge. And that is something that's going to be administered through the property appraiser and the tax collector. And it's not something that a resident's going to be able to opt out of. We're not going to have an ability to say, okay, if you're an improved residential property, you're going to get assessed for collection services for 12 months.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay, so
well-
just currently, if I gutted my house and I wanted a dumpster, the way I read the contract and the ordinance, I'd have to go to Republic first, and Republic would either bring the dumpster or tell me they couldn't do it within the time frame that I forget what it is in the contract. Under this non-exclusivity provision, we do not have to go to Waste Management. You can go to Howler Trunk Stall and Junk.
That's
you
correct.
can do it yourself, buy one of those things at Home Depot and cart it.
That's correct. That's correct.
So that's how I read this provision, but it doesn't mean we can opt out of the entire contract.
That's right.
I do think that that's a commonsensical reading, construction of that language. But you can also read 323 because it's couched in language of choice. It says a residential customer may self-haul solid waste, recyclable materials, or yard waste if they so choose. There may be people among the constituency who say, I so choose.
Sure.
I so choose all the time.
They can self-choose but still have to pay the assessment. So,
But the point is that if this isn't the final agreement, it's an agreement that could be revised so that it creates greater clarity.
At this time, our board...
Why invite?
Yeah, I
Contention.
understand. It could be clarified, I guess. Right now, it has been executed by our board. So if there is a future amendment or something like that, I mean, that is certainly something we could clarify. We'll be following the same process in terms of advertising and going back to our board to get the final cost set up. Maybe there's an opportunity to amend it, but right now it is executed. That is what's been agreed by both the county and Waste Management, to have that language in there.
Well, while you're up here at the podium, if you take a look at the second bullet point up on that screen there, it talks about that the tax collector collects the assessment and remits it to us. And then we have to what? Then turn it around to Waste Management? That seems like to me to be an unnecessary step that waste our staff time.
No, the way we envisioned it with our sort of interlocal agreement between the town and Indian River County is that myself, my department will be the contract administrator. So all invoicing for waste, from Waste Management for unincorporated Indian River County and the town of Indian River Shores, all that invoicing on a monthly basis will come to me and my staff. We, the county, will pay Waste Management on a monthly basis. This process is to allow the town council to work with the tax collector to sort of collect the fees. And what will happen is that the town will then reimburse the county on a whatever monthly, quarterly basis. So it's
Reimburse them for what, the cost of collection, or?
the cost of collection.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Yep. So it'll be a pass-through between the town to the county, but we will manage directly the invoicing and the payment to Waste Management for both town residents and unincorporated.
So the customer fees won't come to our bank account, and then we have to send it out to Waste Management, is what you're saying?
That, I'm not, I believe it will probably come to you first.
That
Worst
seems
case
so-
scenario, it'll be like the ad valorem fees, is we'll get the money, and then it'll just go, as soon as we get it, we probably pass it through. There might be something we can work with the tax collector where it just goes straight to the county,
All right.
but at this point, this is what it would be set up.
Okay.
We'd have to work with that and deal with that.
Thank you.
Great.
Oh, could I ask another question while you're at this? I'm sorry. Section 6.1.1 says residential collection service shall include the following types and level of curbside service. This is at page 14. And there are 3 types of curbside service: solid waste, yard waste, bulk trash. My understanding is that solid waste happens regularly on an appointed day, and so a route is followed on that appointed day. I'm reading this to say it's the same with respect to yard waste and bulk trash.
That's correct.
So that the trucks on a particular day are going to come through the community to pick up yard waste on one day, and then it's going to come through, whether I call up and say I need stuff taken away, there's going to be a truck that comes once a week for yard waste and also for bulk waste?
That's correct. So with this new franchise agreement, what we've done is solid waste is once a week, yard waste is once a week, recycling is once a week, and bulk waste is once a week. That doesn't mean every resident, we hope every resident doesn't put out 4 items a week. But we basically have it with the pricing that we've obtained is those 4 services will be available to residents once a week.
And the residents are going to know, say, on Tuesday, you can put your yard waste out.
That's correct.
And on Wednesday, you can put
What-
bulk trash, which is
One of the things
large odds and ends.
we've tried to do so far right now, and we're working with Waste Management, the way the franchise agreement is listed is all of those services are going to be on the same day. So the community will be impacted, but it'll be impacted one day a week. So if the designation for a particular area is Monday, all 4 services will be provided on Monday, for example.
So you'll have multiple trucks on that day.
Just that for one day, then the rest of the 6 days or whatnot, or rest of the week, it'll be quiet.
So
I don't know if this will create issues, but I frankly can't imagine that most people be putting out bulk trash at all.
We hope not, we hope not.
Yeah, so they have a truck running through. In our town, the vast majority of the roads are maintained by the HOA. There's very few public roads. As you know, on my HOA, that is a issue with the big heavy trucks coming in. I mean, ideally, bulk trash would show up when somebody called for it. You know, my community, I'm not going to see a refrigerator sitting out there once a week or whatever is the definition of bulk trash. I don't know. I don't know if that creates scheduling issues, but something I would think about because it's a tremendous wear and tear on the roads. Something to think about.
Yeah, currently in our franchise, we had it basically where the resident can call for bulk service, and Waste Management had up to 4 days to come pick it up.
Yeah.
And what it's done is sporadic. So you call today, and now Waste Management is 4 days. Your neighbor, a few houses down, calls a few days later.
I see.
And so now you have bulk sitting in front of houses, throughout the week. This basically allows a routed service to be done. Some communities, some HOA communities have opted to maybe designate 1 day a month. It's certainly something that, if a community requests it and Waste Management is willing to accommodate that,
Okay.
and I approve it in writing, then we can make an adjustment to that. But there'll be sort of a case-by-case basis. We certainly understand about the wear and tear, but we were just trying to streamline it so that it's just, and again, we're limiting it to about 4 items a week. But again, hopefully not everybody puts out bulk
Sure.
every week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what you now have up is, assuming the resolution is approved by Town Council before the end of the year, we then would move to work with agreement with the tax collector, which would, again, authorize them to put it on the tax bill, collect it, and then ultimately charge us a slight reimbursement cost, which is all delineated by state statute. Once that happens, then we would have an opportunity to, have that reviewed and executed within 60 to 90 days, hopefully, and then it would be part of the budgeting process that would have to be approved, much as Mr. Mehta just said, they're working through now in anticipation, so the town would have this. The numbers we expect would, again, be static, but as part of procedure, it would have to be approved by this town council. So, in short, the important thing is for this town council to see and approve a resolution before the end of the year, and at this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Harpring on maybe timeline if he has.
Hopefully you'll see that October at the latest. Sort of what our aim is, our time frame.
Yeah. And again, working in conjunction with seeing what the county is doing. They, of course, they have been actually doing this already for years. The county already includes through SWED the recycling aspect on your county bill. So this is just a modification. Their process has been great. And again, I can't thank Mr. Mehta enough. He's just done an excellent job on behalf of the town residents as well as the county residents. And that completes, unless there's any questions for me.
Yes, maybe Mr. Mehta or Heather can answer this question. If you go to page 52 of this section of the presentation, page 79 of our total packet, it refers to the Excel formula for calculating rate adjustment, and the rate adjustment references CPI, but what was confusing to me is it also it says where CPI 1, what's the published CPI 2, then it refers to published monthly fuel price in January of the previous year, but it's not in the formula. I'm very confused. Why is that there?
Good question.
Is the formula incorrect?
Formula doesn't have those 2 items. It's not in the formula at all.
That looks like another one. I'll take this back and take a look at the fuel, because previously we removed the fuel adjustment factor, because they're on compressed natural gas, and in our current franchise agreement, we removed any sort of fuel adjustment factor. So
Okay, because I saw it in there, it made me think the formula was missing.
Okay.
Those variables, so.
Okay, I'll double check. And
Okay,
get back.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much again for your attendance, collaboration, and for staff and the council. I share Ms. Alvarez's concern about the repair across some of the communities where we make it up, so there's an administrative mechanism for us to follow something like that would be great. Regarding Mr. Alfieri's comment, while I may agree with the president, we can use non-expensive service, we have really smart constituents who read these things. I know it's a nightmare for any other constituents to read. We may have some folks that are really going off the gap. So we send this going to be here, the service is not going to be here. I think it's probably interesting to consider, I think, clarifying language, legislative for the day here, but like notwithstanding the requirement that everybody pay for the service of the franchise agreement, you want to only roll some college comes from what they do. So I think that's a good concern right now. So just, try to anticipate preventive comments from what we have. Thank you again for your work.
Just one last thing. I ran the math. A single-family resident home, if I did math right, will save $460.56 a year. That's real money. So, thank you. You're doing a great job negotiating, and I know you did a lot of, Heather did a lot of work as well, and Mr. Mehta as well. So, thank you. That's appreciated.
Terrific. All right. So we're going to have comments from the public regarding the agenda items. And I'm going to include the solid waste and maybe the public will talk about that. If not, any other comments from the public regarding any of the agenda items that we're going to do today? Okay, there being none, we are going to now move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda for the first time in the first minutes? So moved. All in favor? Aye. We don't have to use the roll call vote in the resolution. Mayor's report. It is quick today. We have a qualifying period for candidates for town council. We have one candidate who gave paperwork. Dale is still here. Dane, I'm sorry, Dane here. Yes. Dane, thank you. You're trying to have the ring. So if you're the only candidate who's qualified, congratulations. If other candidates qualify, then we have an election. In November. I hope I'm not getting this wrong. I think I remember correctly. Even if there's only one candidate, council members can still talk to Mr. Dane, if he's the only one, or any candidate in the election until the point he actually takes office. And then after that, sunshine law is down. And he's not caught amongst each other except in the context of the public meeting. So if anybody wants to talk to you, if you want to talk to us, or any other candidates that want to do it for this Mr. Mayor,
I would say in an abundance of caution, the changes have been very closely watched. And so I believe, in fact, that once Friday, if our candidate here was the only candidate and he was qualified, it's a two-part aspect. In fact, he would be the presumptive nominee and he would be subject to everything. So he would be subject to the sunshine law. So basically until about 12 o'clock tomorrow, I believe, is when our qualifying closes. That's your opportunity to speak with him about town council matters. Let me be clear about that. Again, it would be something that would come before the town council. So if you wanted to talk about anything else, you certainly could at any time, but in an abundance of caution, I actually would suggest that.
Can we double check that?
Absolutely, yes, Mr. Mayor, and I'll make sure I send that out. Yes, sir, absolutely, absolutely.
And just to be clear, there's more than one candidate. I'm a candidate.
Yes, you are.
And Lee Mr. Altieri is a candidate.
Right,
as well.
but there's one open seat.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Good enough. If we have another candidate in addition to the name, then we have an election. So,
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in the bonus of caution, we're told if you're going to speak in, Mr. Gaines, you got more than 2 seconds.
Yes, sir. I'll have you an answer shortly.
All right, terrific. Let's move on to council member items. Any council
So moved. All right, second.
Wonderful.
Vice Mayor Carroll. Aye. Councilmember Atwater.
Aye.
Councilmember Altieri. Let the record show the motion passes unanimously 4-0.
Thank you. Item 18, approval of the tentative budget for fiscal year 24-25. Any further discussion? If not, vote in a second, please. Roll call vote.
Mayor Foley. Aye. Vice Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Atwater.
Aye.
Councilmember Altieri. Let the record show the motion passes unanimously 4-0.
All right, item C, approval of the solid waste and recyclables collection franchise agreement, which we had a discussion on a moment ago. There's further discussion, if not a motion, a second, please.
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote.
Mayor Foley. Aye. Vice Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Atwater.
Aye.
Councilmember Altieri. Let the record show the motion passes unanimously 4-0.
All right, terrific. Item 18, we have a pension board member, Mr. D'Agostino. Mr. D'Agostino. Okay. This is the pension board that we talked about in our council meeting. We've had precious little influence of the statute, but we do have the ability to approve the pension board member. Mr. D'Agostino, as far as I know, is the only candidate, is that correct?
There was another applicant, was Albert Iavino, public safety member. That application was discussed at the pension board meeting. Both had an opportunity to speak, and Mr. D'Agostino was selected unanimously by the quorum present. Given the town council's ministerial role per statute in this, we're only presenting the member that was actually approved by the board on that particular day.
Okay, thank you. All right, I seem to recall the statute actually says our approval is ministerial, which makes one wonder why we have to approve a ministerial act. But be that as it may, is there a motion to approve in a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mayor Foley.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Carroll. Aye. Councilmember Atwater.
Aye.
Councilmember Altieri. Aye. Let the record show the motion passes 4-0 unanimously.
Okay, item 8E, ordinance number 573. It's the second reading of the cemetery grave markers. Mr. Sweeney has to do his legal requirements for the second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 573, an ordinance related to John Violent Cemetery, amending Chapter 93 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Eagle River Shores, specifically Section 93.06D, double grave markers, Section 93.06D2, on the provisions providing for applicability and inclusion, providing for severability, providing for procurement of errors, and providing for effective dates. This is the second.
Is there any discussion? As it is a second reading, is there a motion to approve in a second?
So moved. Second.
Roll call vote.
Mayor Foley.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Atwater.
Aye.
Councilmember Altieri.
Aye.
Let the record show the motion passes 4-0 unanimously.
All right, terrific. Item 8F is to appoint a voting delegate for the 2024 Florida League of Cities Conference. I'm going to nominate Mr. Atwater if he's willing to do it.
I do not plan to attend.
You do not plan to attend.
There is a resiliency conference that I've gotten the agenda on about a month later, talking about beach erosion, coastal flooding. I think that's a much more useful use of my time and taxpayer money. I had looked over the Florida League of Cities agenda and didn't see anything that really jumped out, so I thought it made more sense to attend the other meeting.
Okay, I withdraw my nomination based on your comments. I agree with you. The items on the agenda do not appear to be of any great significance, and you've probably heard me up here before saying that with a municipality our size, I'm not sure how effective the League of Cities is in advocating for municipalities our size. So while it's a good thing for us to stay engaged and keep our finger on the pulse. Unless anybody else wants to go, I would say let's alert the Florida League of Cities that we will not be sending a voting delegate this year. I know they will. All right, so that takes care of discussion with probable and possible action. We did move item 8A to item 8G, so we are going to go back to the NPDES MS4 presentation. So, that concludes the voting items for council, by the way.
Yes, and thank you for moving that, Mr. Mayor. Just want to let everyone know we're fortunate to have Maggie Giraldo with Kimley Horn. She is helping us manage our municipal stormwater operations and permit, so we're going to defer to her to give us a presentation on what we're doing and where we are right now and answer any questions if there are any. Maggie, thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. As Jim mentioned, my name is Maggie Giraldo. I'm with Kimley Horn and Associates. And today we're doing a presentation about stormwater and the town's stormwater system. This is primarily to comply with the town's NPDES permit, and we're going to go in a couple of minutes in more detail as to what NPDES is. So the purpose of the presentation is to educate the staff and the public about stormwater, explain how the town's stormwater system operates, and demonstrate how to identify illicit discharges. Doing this will be able to help the town comply with the stormwater management permit requirements. So what is stormwater? So in Florida, it's just rain. When it comes down, it falls on roofs, it falls on your lawn, driveways, roads, and it takes with it essentially everything that it finds along its path. So it takes with it leaves, debris, fertilizers, pesticides, as well as bacteria that is found in fecal matter from animals. So what is the NPDES? So NPDES is the mechanism that regulates stormwater in the United States. It is part of the Clean Water Act that was established in 1976 by the EPA, and like I mentioned, it regulates our stormwater. And it has different components to it, and the component that is applicable to the town is the MS4, which is the Municipal Separate Stormwater System. So the NPDES, the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, aims to minimize the discharge of pollutants into our stormwater. And it does that by education, by setting rules, policies, guidelines that municipalities or counties or agencies have to obey by. And then by doing so, it protects the health of our waters, lakes, lagoons, our oceans, as well as groundwater. As I mentioned, it is required by the federal state, at the federal level and at the state level. And as I was saying, it is integral when you have a municipal separate stormwater sewer system, which is the MS4. And what that is that you have a separate sanitary sewer system that goes to your wastewater treatment plant and a separate stormwater system. So when water goes onto your stormwater inlets, curb inlets, it goes into a separate system that can go and eventually discharge to rivers, lakes, lagoons, groundwater, swells, lots of different components depending on what you have within your community. At the town, the primarily route that the stormwater goes, it goes into the lagoon with outfalls, or it could go into the ocean as well. And that's a little description of how the sanitary sewer pipe goes to the wastewater treatment plant, and the storm drain goes to surface waters or groundwater. So what the town does is the town's permit requires the town to establish best management practices. So implement ways to help reduce the contaminants and pollutants that are going into the stormwater system. Some of the best management practices that the town utilizes are here. So the town has installed filter fabrics filter baskets that have a filter fabric. They've installed these along All Winter Beach Road. These baskets collect debris before it goes into the stormwater system and prevent it from entering the pipes and eventually discharge through the outfalls. So it collects, as you can see in there, debris, sediment. The town has also installed a baffle box at Indian Lane, and it has the same, it uses the same concept as a filter box where it collects sediment and debris. This is significantly larger, and it is at the end of a system before the water is discharged through an outfall. So what I was saying earlier when I mentioned illicit discharges, so illicit discharges are discharges that are not composed entirely of stormwater runoff. They can be deliberate or it could be an accident as well. It can be chemicals, it can be raw materials, it could even be bare soils. Some of the examples that, can be found very easily is you can have grass clippings. They're not supposed to be going into our stormwater system. Sometimes they may have pool water that gets drained. Pool water should not be going into the stormwater system. It should be going into your sanitary sewer one.
It should be going where?
It should go into your sanitary sewer. And sometimes you may even have connections that you have for overflows that are directly tied to your sanitary sewer, because you should not be discharging your pool water to the storm system. Sometimes you have this. If you have contractors in the area, they may easily dispose of, any chemicals, paints in the storm system. Washing of vehicles should not be done also on the street, because that's just going to run off into your inlets, into your stormwater system. And then when you're observing any waters of body water, you can see it's easy to identify an illicit discharge because you're able to see color in the water or sheen or maybe a smell. Sometimes you may be able to see foam. That is an indicative of illicit discharges. And then how to help. So everyone should be on the lookout. If you see any debris, if you are witnessing any dumping, you can call the buildings department. And then obviously also always remember to remind any contractors, anybody that you may have working in your property, that only rain should be going down your drain. Do you guys have any questions?
Terrific. Thank you. Anything from council on this? Mr. Elwater?
My recollection was on MPDES that we have to, if there's a construction site, if there's a certain amount of rain, a quarter inch or a half inch, we have to go out and inspect that site after the rain stops. Is that accurate?
Correct. So that is part of some of the other best management practices that the town has, which are requirements that MPDES has. When you have any type of construction in your property, depending on the size of the property, you will either have an NOI for a generic construction permit, or you will end up having an NPDES permit. With both types of permits, you have to have a stormwater pollution prevention plan. There needs to be inspections, and you cannot have any outfall, any discharges from your construction site onto the road, onto the public property. Okay. Everything has to be contained on site.
Okay. So this is a question of the town manager. How often, and I see our public works director is here, so maybe should go to him, but how often do we clean out the baffle boxes and filters?
We have a schedule. In fact, we just, I think it was last week or the week before, we just had to clean out. We're on schedule to clean them all out.
Clean quarterly, I believe.
But how, my question is how often do we do it?
Quarterly.
Quarterly.
Quarterly. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maggie.
Just for clarification, this is one of our community outreach kind of points that we're using to get higher ratings so that we lower, hopefully, insurance rates and...
There's some crossover, yes, sir, and we'll have some additional narrowly focused CRS items for that rating as well.
All right, great. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move to staff updates. Building official reports and statistics.
Mr. Mayor, on both the code enforcement and building official, both Jake and Fred are in classes today on the National Electrical Code training. These are things that they don't schedule that are otherwise scheduled that they have to do. I spoke with both Fred and Jake about both their reports. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to try to address them, and if not, I can get you the answers.
Okay, so for 9A and 9D, building official and public works, does council have anything for Mr. Harpring that he can either answer or funnel over to Mr. Held or Mr. Bryant, Sergeant Bryant?
On the, just on the code enforcement piece, I just want to note that, council, if you had any questions about the Sea Turtle survey that was just recently sent out to you, that was done, just please let us know. We can get those answers to you if you have any.
As that has come up at the Beach and Shores meeting, we sent that over to the county because they were asking, there was general questions about enforcement.
Yes, fortunately, we're used the same vendor, so there's overlay. Excuse me. So the county has the report that we just did, as well as...
So Quentin Bergman got it?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I do have a, now that you mentioned, you know, the turtle issues come up, it's almost cyclical, like every 3-4 years. Is there any reason in particular this year why the issue seems to be being brought up more and more by different bodies?
I think historically the town, to some extent, may have relied on the county, but I felt compelled to take the town's responsibility into our own hands, and I think that's why there's a little more visibility. But as council knows, our first goal here, and we've met with some constituents as well, is, you know, try the education piece, because it's unknown to a lot of people. So the reports that we send out are hopefully, you know, are hopefully working that way.
Okay, thank you very much. 9B, Town Treasurer. Heather Christmas, Town Treasurer.
You've received my report. I don't really have anything else to update you on, so if there's any questions, I'm gladly help you.
Anything? Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know it's been a busy time for you. Public Safety, Chief.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just an update on the number of items we've got working over at the Public Safety Department. If you haven't noticed, our traffic enforcement has been way up for the past 30 days, almost double what it has been in previous months. So we've been very, very active. An awful lot of warnings, not so much written tickets, but an awful lot of speed warnings and those types of things. Our Detective Bureau has, historically, this is a downtime for them where they start slowing down quite a bit. They're actually busier now than we have been in the past during when we're in season and we have all of our residents in town. We recently just put out a fraud bulletin to all the citizens. We've had several cases of big gold bullion issues. There's actually an article in 32963 this past week, I believe. And we're continuing on with that process. This has turned into a statewide investigation, and also it has some federal outreach to it also. So one of our detectives is the lead on this, and he's been very, very, very busy over the past 60 to 90 days. We received a number of EMS training aids over the past 30 days or so. We actually have a workshop set up upstairs in our training room, and we're actually moving all of our employees through that now, and it's advanced EMS techniques on how to do interosseous, which is actually a bone stick, where we actually infuse IVs through the bone into the bone marrow. So we have a lot of those trainings set up, and we have additional equipment that we're going to order next year to actually continue to build on that. We have an awful lot of our employees, over half of them currently enrolled in a driver pump operator program for the fire engine and the ladder truck, and as soon as they wrap that up, which will be in the next 20 days or so, they go into ladder truck operations and ladder truck certification. So we're actually enhancing those levels of training and certification that we have for our employees on the fire side. Historically, also, we have a slowdown period where EMS activity and fire activity tends to fall off during this time of year. We haven't seen that this year. We continue to maintain a fairly high EMS response, and the crews are extremely busy out there. And I already mentioned the mailer that we sent out. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this point. Yes, sir.
I just want to compliment you on the mailing on the fraud.
Yes, sir.
I thought that was very well done. It was done in simple terms that people who are not necessarily computer literate will understand, and I plan to send it out to a number of relatives across the country, so well done.
Thank you very much. Actually, that was a complete team effort, and it had Detectives Bureau was involved, all of our command staff. Many of our employees are all involved in that process, so it was a true collaborative effort to assemble that and make sure that we got the right message out. I will do that, sir. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chief. Keep up the good work. All right, next item. I believe I misspoke. I said we were going to cover 9D. I meant 9E, Code Enforcement. 9D, Mr. Bryant, Public Works.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
You've received my report. If there's any questions in regards to it, feel free. I'm ready to answer.
Anything from Mr. Bryant? No, I just, once again, I want to compliment you. There are things that are being done that were never done before, and I want to thank you for, all the tidiness, all the nice public works things, everything from, American flags on the right day going up to the things that make our community different and aesthetically pleasing. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
9F, Town Clerk.
Good morning, Council. I just wanted to give you an update. We alluded to it earlier in the meeting about the upcoming closing of our qualification period, which is at noon tomorrow, Friday, July 26th. I've had one person file for qualification who you introduced earlier, and I've had 2 residents pick up packets that are still outstanding, but there's a possibility that they may be filed. And that's the status. 2 residents have picked up packets, or I've emailed packets, so there is a possibility that they may be filing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, I will have an answer for you on that. I want to provide absolute clarification. And again, I don't want to be premature if there were other candidates. A lot of this dynamic can change if there's more than one person versus incumbents. So I will have an answer to all of council by email so that you can know whether you can continue to speak with any of the candidates prior to election.
Right, you're looking at me. I understand I can't talk to Bob and Jim. That much I got from you, so.
Again, it's a nuance. I have the Sunshine Manual, and there
Okay,
are certain
thank you.
different levels. The last thing I'll just mention is I am heading the Florida Municipal Attorneys Association. Their annual meeting starts today at 1 o'clock in Naples, so I'll be traveling over there. It'll be for 3 days. I have an opportunity to meet with colleagues throughout the state and follow up, and any other emerging issues be able to report back.
Thank you very much. And by the way, congratulations on the appointment for the Bar Association. Why don't you explain what that is? Because it's a pretty prestigious thing for us to have a town attorney in the position you got.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sincerely appreciate that, and all of council. The Florida Bar is a mandatory bar association. You cannot practice law in Florida without being a member of the Florida Bar. There's approximately 110,000 members, and underneath that, there's about 26 different practice areas ranging from criminal law, civil trial, tax, probate. One of the sections of the Florida Bar is the city, county, and local government section. It's intended to encourage municipal attorneys, county attorneys, school district attorneys to apply. There are approximately 2,000 members in Florida, and as of July 1st until June 30th of next year, I am the chair for the entire section, responsible for all programming, coordinating, continuing education, outreach, conferences. There was a nice little promo yesterday the Florida Bar pushed out, and I'm very appreciative again of all council support for this. Thank you, sir.
Congratulations. No rate increase, otherwise we are going to start auditing. We will take up the audit if we start doing anything. So.
Are there any pressing issues which are bubbling to the top at this point?
Yes, and just very briefly, some of which this council is very much aware of. Again, septic to sewer, those issues certainly across the East Coast, much of the condo legislation, the new iteration of the Live Local Act still has not been fleshed out, and a lot of municipalities are still trying to determine how that will work. And again, I was at the State of the County meeting last Friday, and unfunded mandates was a huge aspect of that presentation. I don't have the exact number, but if I recall correctly, Mr. Katanis, the county administrator, mentioned that it's somewhere around 70 cents of every dollar paid into the county coffers goes to support unfunded mandates. And of course, those would be dictates from the state of Florida. You have to do this, but we're not going to give you the money on how to do it. So again, those are things that at the local level we continue to monitor very closely.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Anything for town attorney? No? All right,
Thank
town
you, sir.
manager, Mr. Harpring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief update on our paving projects. We continue with engineering on Beachcomber and Pebble Lane. That's concurrent with the agreement that we're working on with the City of Vero Beach. They are looking at, right now, we've sent them over basically a cooperation utilization agreement to coordinate the paving with the septic to sewer piece on Beachcomber and Pebble Lane. So that's ongoing. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to provide you more information in any greater detail. We do have an open house scheduled, and in August, there'll be at least 2 mailings to everyone on Beachcomber and Pebble Lane of our September 12th open house to discuss the project. Of course, we'll publicize it otherwise on the website so that town members can come if they desire. We'll actually probably be doing it in here so we can broadcast it and have it retained for people's information. The goal is that project on Beachcomber and Pebble will really set the template for the upcoming work on all the other town roads relative to the septic to sewer piece, which, as Councilmember Atwater noted earlier, we are really trying to get resolved within the statutory time frame. I note quickly, and we'll defer to Councilmember Atwater on beach and shore items, other than to note that there are really just generally working with the county on the beach access agreement for Beachcomber Lane. That's not an issue. We've done that before with other people. They have 2 other beach access locations, one in Johns Island and the other is Turtle Trail. So everything seems to be lining up. And again, I'll defer for more detail to Councilmember Atwater. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything specific to note.
All right, is there anything for our town manager? I presume we're we're already in hurricane season, but we're well prepared. We're continuing to coordinate.
Yes, of course, we've got our Public Works Director is very happy. We've got our equipment lined up to have our piece of equipment that we get for a few months each year, which I've talked to some council members about. So we're very fortunate to have a very experienced team here in regards to those items.
All right, terrific. Well, let's hope and pray we have an easy season. So thank you very much, Mr. Harpering. Item 12, council committee reports. Anything? Okay, take care. Best of luck. Nothing from Mr. Altieri, nothing from me. Summertime, we tend not to meet, except for barbecues and luncheons, and nobody wants to hear about that. So, Vice Mayor, nothing. Mr. Elwater?
Yeah, I have a
Beach and Shores? Yep.
Yeah, you have in your packet item 12A. Oh, thank you. You have in your packet item 12A, the update from the Beach and Shores Preservation Advisory Committee, which I attended as our representative on July 15th. So I noted a couple of things there that I underlined in red. Is apparently the county may get some more money to assist in the Sector 4 construction. So for those of you who are not with this type of nuance on the beach, there are, I believe it's 8 sectors along the beach, starting from Sebastian Inlet, going south to the county line with St. Lucie County. The vast majority of our town is in Sector 4, and for a whole host of reasons, which I won't go into because it really bugs me when I start talking about it. Sector 4 is not listed as a critically eroded sector, which means that trying to get money for beach replenishment is much more difficult. But Mr. Harpering is working a lot with the counties. It's something I brought up back in 2015. We've made a lot of progress. The county's been very helpful. So we're going to do a dune replenishment. So it's not a full beach replenishment where you put sand all the way out to the water, but it's a big step in the right direction. So more money has been handed out by the state to potential people who are doing this type of work. We did get on the list, but it has sort of a rather bizarre requirement, is that there's a limited amount of money, approximately $36 million, which is a drop in the bucket, as we all know, given all the damage that's occurred on beaches up and down both coasts. So the money is available on a first come, first serve approach. So basically what you have to do, you have to rush to get, anytime you do work that's approved, that matches up against the requirements, you have to get your invoice in on a first come, first basis to Tallahassee to get paid. It's rather bizarre. And the project has to be done by June 20th of 2025, which I think will hit. I think the reality is a lot of the money is just going to disappear, but if we can get a few more bucks out of that, so much the better. The Sector 4 work that I talked about, the last thing we were waiting for was a U.S. Army Corps of Engineer countersign. It's absolutely amazing how slow this process is as people go back and forth on this. But the county's Coastal Engineering Division is going to be putting out bid documents for the RFP. They're expected to go out in early August at the latest to obtain bids, and construction is anticipated November 2024 to April 2025 window. That matches up with the end of turtle season. The other thing that came up, which was important under department updates, and I'm sorry I didn't put down the definition. On the document you see on the second page, there's new BPP. That is the Beach Preservation Plan. So they occasionally do updates of these. Over the next 15 months, they're going to have a target of getting this done. And my ears perked up with the idea about creating an offshore sand borrow area. For those of you who come from the Northeast, and Councilman Smith, who's not here today, she lives in South Jersey shore, and I used to go down there all the time. A lot of the sand comes from offshore. we don't drive it from trucks in the northeast from these sand mines like they do down here. So my ears perked up with the idea, well, maybe we can pump sand from offshore onto our beaches, which I think is a lot more efficient. Unfortunately, the study just includes steps to propose the creation of an offshore borrow area, not actually doing one. So this is sort of the first step. So any questions on that before I move to the next item?
No, none for me, anything?
Okay. The second thing is, many of you may have seen an article on 32963, Vero Beach 32963, about the increase in the projected cost of the water and sewer plant, and which wasn't explained particularly well in that article was where the information came out. It came out as a result of a public records request on my part. The city of Vero Beach, to say they haven't been transparent on the cost of this is a massive understatement. So they knew what the cost of the plan, shall we say, the revised projected cost of the plant was when we had the Utilities Commission meeting in which I'm the town's representative, but they didn't disclose it then. I asked for a public records request for the bond underwriting documents. So I worked in the bond business for 35 years. I went to see the process that was going about on the way that they're doing it, and I won't rehash the article. I think they're doing it wrong. Unfortunately, they have a finance director there, and I'm sure the gentleman has good qualifications on the day-to-day business. He has no underwriting experience that I've been able to tell or dealing with Wall Street, so they're solely relying on their consultant, which is PFM, which is a pretty well-known municipal consultant. But I think the scoring system they're doing, which was written up in the article, I won't go through that, is completely wrong. But what I wanted to talk about today was the cost of the plant, which, again, this is a projection. They're going to put out RFPs around October or so when we'll finally see the cost, a cost not to exceed. So back in August 2022, they were talking about $82 million. In a meeting then, I pointed out to them that Orange County, north of Orlando, had completed a plant that was substantially the same in size. There was a couple little extra things that were done. In 2019, they completed that plant. It cost $103 million. So they were projecting in August 2022, $82 million. That dog don't hunt. I pointed out at the time, I was told I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. So then they raised the cost of the plant up to $130 million. The only way that was discovered was that John Cotugno at a Taxpayers Association meeting let it drop in a discussion. I kept asking for a Utilities Commission meeting where we weren't being given a number. Now, as a result of these documents here, the projected cost is up to $156 million. So I ran some quick math. From August 2022 to the most recent number, the cost of the plant is up 90%. From September 2023, so it went from 130 to 156 million. The cost of the plant has gone up 20%. CPI from August 2022 to now is only up 6.1%. So they say, well, construction costs are way up. And you got to understand, you know, well, yeah, they did jump up during the period right after COVID. But August 2022, we were pretty much through COVID. So I tried to look out and look at construction cost trends. So, and this is why the internet is great. The U.S. Department of Interior, the Bureau of Reclamation, has cost indices. So they have cost indices for pumping plants, for structures and improvements on pumping plants, and for equipment on pumping plants, which on the documents you have on the page that is on the dais here, that is sitting there, I gave you the background material. It is all the various cost indices consist of two elements: contractor, labor, and equipment costs, and contract supply markets and equipment. So, okay, they're not perfect, but they give you some idea. So basically, costs have been pretty much flat from August 2022 to currently, because you had this big run-up, and what's happening now is a lot of contractors are taking advantage of it and gouging, and now that's going to... So let's say they're off, and some of these increases show like 5%. Let's say they're 10%. They're not 90%. So I just want to point out that the whole job of projecting cost, I mean, in the private sector, if a contractor, if a consultant came to me and said, well, these are what the increases are going to be, I'd fire them, because obviously they didn't do the job right up front. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. Our rates are going to keep going up. So now they're going to borrow, my guess is they're hoping to get maybe $20 to $30 million in grants. I hope they're right. I hope they get every dollar they can. You're probably looking at roughly, and I haven't run the numbers, I built a whole entire spreadsheet to look at financing scenarios. Last time I looked, and interest rates haven't moved too much, maybe come down a little bit. At the time was about $97 million. So if you call it $90 million in financing costs. And my understanding, and I may be wrong on this, is these costs on the plant do not include the demolition of the plant along the lagoon if they decide to do that. Now, I'm sure they'll stick the water and sewer ratepayers with that, and if they get something done on Three Corners, which is a part of, that money will go into the general fund. That's the way they operate. No, be happy to take any questions.
No,
Other than that, I don't feel particularly passionate about that. So,
Thank you very much. My understanding is the same, that it does not include the cost of demolition. It also does not include the cost of environmental remediation,
right.
which can dwarf the cost of demolition.
Absolutely.
I thank you for your work. My only comment on the numbers is I go back further on the timeline to get a complete story. I didn't bring it with me today. I do have it somewhere in my archives at home. But if you go back to when this was first discussed, it's going to be 8 to 10 years ago, when the talk was potentially having a consolidation of the county system absorbing the city system. Well, they estimated that would cost, the consolidation would cost $55 million. And guess what? The city of Vero Beach said, we can build it for 51. So why wouldn't we build our own plant for $51 million? Fast forward 2 or 3 years when nothing was done. Well, the county, we can do it, you know, I think they said for 64, 65 million consolidated. Well, we can do it for 60. So this number just keeps moving and moving, not with any real comparison in mind as to what's better for the taxpayers, but to keep a utility for a municipality of a relatively small size just to have its own utility and its own thing. It makes zero sense. We said we told you so back then. I was called crazy along with you. I think the numbers are light. I don't trust 156 million.
I agree.
The number $250 million has been tossed around with financing by the time they get done. When is enough? When is somebody going to look at this and say, this is madness? This is just too much money. As franchisees, we've been told that we can't pay the rate that was negotiated during our franchise agreement with the city by the courts. Okay. We negotiated a lower rate that would be matched by, the city would match the county rate. They walked away from that. We're paying higher rates now. The mayor made a statement that we're going to have shovels in the ground. 2024. Well, I don't see any shovels in the ground. I don't even see financing in place. I mean, I don't know if you have an estimate of when they're actually going to get going on this, but meanwhile, we have all of these higher rates being paid. Where's the money going? Is it going into a saved fund? Or is the money just going into a general fund account and getting transferred over?
I think a lot of it is the latter. And as we talked about up in those days before, they transfer money over to their general fund, which is used to lower their property taxes, number one. The other thing that most people don't consider is they also do what I consider to be inappropriate cost allocation. So, for example, they'll take a portion of city council or town clerk budget and attribute it to the utility. And I could be here for a half hour walking through how, in my opinion, they violate Government Accounting Standard Board practices, GASB, which as Heather would tell you, our town treasurer is the guidelines you're supposed to use in terms of doing things. They've never put a single dollar aside, and they knew this plant was coming to the end of its useful life. So, I mean, it's something that you and I testified up in Tallahassee about, and unfortunately, we didn't get the state legislature to do anything.
So just to punctuate that note, we will continue to push this legislative session for whatever kind of legislative relief we can get. But the more I looked at this from so many different vantage points, that's all well and good. And the taxpayers elected us to do that and to be guard dogs for their hard-earned tax dollars. But at the end of the day, we're going to have some adults come to some sobering conclusions. And that's not the people on this dais, that's the people in the municipality next to us.
Yep.
And I just think this whole Three Corners operation being done in tandem with the relocation of the sewer plant, good luck. I don't know who is going, unless there's some progress being made on that, I don't see how this thing starts moving forward. And you can sign all the contracts and RFPs that you want, but the rubber hits the road when you, Mr. Sweeney makes his living doing this, the rubber hits the road when you get down to the definitive documents. And that's where the economic allocation comes in, and that's where you find out is this going to happen or not. So anyway, in the interim, we have a very focused job right now, and that's to protect our taxpayers from further waste of the monies that are being paid pursuant to the franchise agreement, and to explore other options. We have other options, hopefully, that may fall in different years as seats change in councils and seats change in county commissions. So with that, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Are there any members of the audience who want to join in our tirade about anything? No?
Mr. Mayor, I just had one item. Excuse me, I neglected to note. The town is involved in a beach cleanup Saturday, 8 to 9, Beachcomber Lane. If you have any questions, just please call our office. Parking is just right over here, and we've got all the equipment and everything. And again, I apologize I didn't mention that earlier.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming today and for giving your due attention. Have a great month, and we will see you in August.